We are towards the bottom, about 10 lines from the bottom, on Mem. The line starts with levad. And we are still on this principle that hasphah ruchnis does not create an entity. Hasphah ruchnis must be a ha-arah levad. This is what the word levad applies to. We discussed yesterday the principle of a ha-arah. Essentially, ha-arah means the effect of something rather than the essence of something. In our terminology, this would be to be a human being or to act as a human being. One can fail acting like a human being, but he cannot fail being a human being. That has no bounds. And ultimately, it will remain there. Like we said a while ago, that this man who had lost his sense, his self-respect, lying in the gutter in his own throw up, and he claims that he doesn't want to be helped. He doesn't want to. Don't bother me. He is deeply pained because he is not what he is. Because that you cannot lose. Yeah.
From last night. I don't know if I really understand the meaning of what you say. Like you were talking last night about at a certain point it could go into the Talmud's etzem, or it could reach the Talmud's etzem, and then you talked about the Talmud calling forth his etzem. In other words, the hasphah on every level we say is mugbal, but yet it seemed to be that the goal of the hasphah, so to speak, was to reach the Talmud's etzem and for the Talmud to call forth his etzem. And I don't know if it's on target, but I'm interested in understanding this a little bit. I'm not sure I understand it completely.
To reach his etzem means to insist, yes, indeed, you can do it. And Talmud does not understand it, and he doesn't relate to it. And then the Rav becomes adamant, and is reprimanding him for. And the Talmud says, I don't know what you want from me. I don't understand. And Rav says, you do understand. And the Talmud becomes, kind of pressed internally. What does he want from me? And I feel like getting up and saying goodbye, but I'm not going to do it. Why? That I'm not going to do it. This is the essence of the Talmud. This is where you say the Oiri Yosher ends, because it doesn't make sense. Excuse me. And the Oiri Chayzer comes back and says, you're not going to do that. Why? Because that's where the truth is. Not going to doubt this.
And that's when the Talmud realizes that he has an answer, when he conscious of his at that point.
He doesn't realize anything. That's where he brings his essence.
He brings his essence. And what does that? What is?
It's the focus, the dedication. It's unconditional.
And what's the? And this may be again showing that I don't. But what's the mila of that? I mean, I know there is. I can sense it, but I'm just trying to
Whether he is listening with his koy haseichel, or he's listening, he's there because of what he is.
And if he's there because of what he is, then
That touches his very essence. Then, ultimately, the oil begins to sparkle from his essence.
that's what I mean, calling forth the essence.
Right. You know the story with this Talmud that came to Lubavitch. We discussed it many times. And the Rebbe Rashab, the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, was the Menahel, was the principal of the yeshiva. He interviewed the Talmud. The Talmud was a great lamb, coming from a Snadish background, a great lamb. And the Rebbe came to the father and said, I don't think we can accept him. It's not for us. And the Rebbe Rashab said, no, it's accepted. You'll have nachas. And this was a man coming from a well-established family, and he had all the trimmings of hey, I'm here. I not did the greatest gift to humanity. And it came Pesach time. In the Babich, the Bochim, they prepared everything for the Pesach. The kasha, the kitchen, the kasha, everything. And they ate together, and the Bochim were involved in the serving. This was a huge undertaking. So the Rebbe, the Rashab, the father instructed his son, the Frierdiker Rebbe. They told him that all the heaviest work that an associated with cleaning for Pesach, you should assign to this bocher. This bocher never dreamt in his life that he ever going to scrub tables. He gave him this job, and he did it. And eventually he did it with full zest. And he went through a month of torture, a real change of personality completely. And then by Achon Shel Pesach, I think even one of the stories about Achon Shel Pesach, the Rebbe used to come into the Medrash and eat together with the Bochim, and the Rebbe Rashab pointed to this Bocher, speaking to the Frierdiker Rebbe, and says, look at him. The coarseness has evaporated, and a human face surfaced. And eventually he was really a great prize, a specimen of Chabad, of Tinchut. And what was it? It wasn't the labor. It was the acceptance, dedication. Surely, his first reaction would have been, "This is not for me. Why do I come from this? Without a peeps, you just did it." Why did he do it? Because at that point he had already learned in Lubavitch, a couple of months, I don't remember what. He already saw that there is something here that is totally beyond him. And he's not going to give it up, whatever it takes.
It seems like the one who's far away, the one who comes to essence is the one who's further away. It has to be like that. The first student, or now this one. The one.
Well, yes, and in a certain sense it would seem that way.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily true, because everyone is at a distance, in a certain sense.
How so?
Huh?
How so?
Because to understand the essence of Chassidus, to understand the essence of Torah, everybody has only the oil. You have a lot of it, but it's still oil. To relate to the essence, to the point of Chassidus Nefesh, the point that the Rebbe can say to you, go to Honolulu and establish a Chabad house.
Make it Alaska. I don't remember maybe.
Honolulu is not so bad, right? Honolulu is not so bad.
Antarctica.
Dharamsala.
The Rebbe spoke about this one time. By Fabrengen was a Purim Fabrengen. And Zamaduchman Shalom got up. This was the early days of the Shlichus, and reported that this Shliach, Geralinger, went to Italy. Everyone was so shocked that he's going to Italy over there, and reported that he is very comfortable. He has a big dwelling of 14 rooms, and he stood up in the middle of Fabrengen and he made that announcement. I don't know if you probably didn't know who this was. He was a lovable person, but not the greatest Chacham. So the Rebbe then spoke. You tell her in your mouth, you should go to bring Eden back to Yiddishkeit and to illuminate a person. And there, Begashmis, he will be destroyed. But But he will bring neshamas, he will bring all the light. And what are we celebrating? He has 40 rooms.
We have at previous times we've had often Anan Nasiv Malka, the one who chooses the king. It seems, in a way it's been addressed, but that you have to choose a whole bunch of things that are not the king before somebody chooses the king. Or can there be, call it more even progress, where you realize your distance and so you proceed? Or does there have to be this kind of being the student who really doesn't get it? And makes...
Well, I think we answered this.
Yeah.
Throughout the process, the reason that he's progressing is that he senses he's got so much, but he doesn't have the real thing.
Uh-huh.
If he says,
Right.
okay, I have sneaker, I can give a shir, I'm respected, I'm sitting in Mizrach, what else do I want?
Mm-hmm. So with that he can go from, let's say, good to better. Person doesn't have to go from not good to turning around.
Right. And in this respect, we're talking about Etzem, that's not from good to better. It is from a vague idea of what it is to clarity and to dedication to it. The Chacham always wanted this truth. He wasn't aware of what it is that's bothering him. When he saw the Melech, he says, that's it. This is what I want. If his aspiration prior to meeting the Melech was, I hope to have some kind of good position here, then when he sees the Melech, he's not going to identify the Melech. So basically, this is universal. All right. So we are, I said, about 10 lines on the bottom. The line begins with the word levad. At the very end of that line, Avo mashu ha-arah levad. That which is only ha-arah, yichle v'yifse koiche. Will end, yichle will end, v'yifse koiche, and its power will interrupt. There's a point in where it ceases to be effective.
I'm sorry, where are we?
On page Mem,
Yeah. How many lines down?
about 10 lines from the bottom.
Oh. Sure.
The line
Got
now
it.
begins
Got
from
it.
what shehu ha-arah levad.
Got it. Got it.
We mentioned many times, bring it back to our own significance, that with seichel you can understand and be clearly convinced of right versus wrong. And yet, it is never compelling. The effect of your seichel has its limit. I'm convinced you're right. But that doesn't get me up and for the next step. It gets me out to do it. The seichel doesn't have the power to pick up the whole person and transport him from here to here. The conscious seichel. The deeper seichel, the essential seichel says, you better move. That's a different thing. That's not that cannot be reasoned. That's the essence, the human essence.
That we say, sorry, the point of that is to relate to what we're learning here is that's coming min ha'etzem. That's
right. You say you better move. It's not reasoning with himself.
That's a ha-arah from the etzem.
That's right. That's a ha-arah from the etzem. That's the etzem speaking. That's true. What's a ha-arah directly from the etzem? You better move. And the power to move is from the etzem itself. The etzem moves, not the ha-arah. Ultimately, what makes him move is his ruchni. Sometimes we discuss that. Let's listen. And as for example, oil haneir, the light of a candle, shenich lekoyach his pashtusoi, but the koyach of its the koyach, the power of its spreading, of its effect, of the illumination, and she'ein meir lemerochik, meaning simply that it does not illuminate to a great distance. V'gam oir ho'avuko, and even the light of avuko, of a great flame, shemispashet yesed, that spreads more, mikol mokoim, yet still nichle koyach hispashtus. the force, the power of it spreading ends. We'll have the whole presentation and we'll get into it a little bit. V'yav gam oil hashemesh, and even the sunlight. Eino idoim ha-arah l'maylo ulamato. Its illumination power is not comparable the way it is above and the way it is below. Ukmoi sheyesh chilukim behachoim, and just as there is differences behachoim in the heat, the mikarev hu soiret, that if you come very close, it burns up. Doesn't warm up, it burns. Ukiyodua sheyesh gimel avirim, and as it's known, sheyesh gimel avirim, that there are 3 levels in the space between us and the sun. Ukmeikein hu beho'er, and the similar union is in the light that the sun spreads forth. Also, there is a difference. There's a difference in terms of its intensity, close by or further out, and as further you go, the more it weakens and dissipates. Again, we'll come back to this when we get the whole Hainu. And the point in this is, why does oil dissipate? Lefi shekol zehu ha-arah, because this whole phenomenon that we're observing is a ha-arah. Is not the etzem, it's only a reflection, and a functional reflection. This is why its koyach ends, and ultimately nifsak it interrupts.
Translate that again, please. Shekol zehu ha-arah.
Mm-hmm.
And all this is because.
Lefi, because shekol zehu ha-arah, because this whole phenomenon of light is a ha-arah.
Oh,
That's why nichla v'nifsekoi.
It's just a diffusion, simulation, sort of.
It's the functional reflection of
Yeah.
what it is, not the etzem.
Yeah.
As we explained many times,
Right.
that sun per se has no bounds, because sun is not a light that illuminates darkness, but it is a light that defies darkness, that when darkness doesn't exist. And therefore there is no way that could be nichla. That can end. Nifse koich. The etzem cannot be nifse koich. The oir, the affected, the functional element, that's a completely different thing. That has a limit where it interrupts. And the significance in to understand for us, these mashalim, which are very clear, but in our world it becomes a whole struggle to relate to the mashal, because of the way we are used to thinking of sunlight. Very briefly, the Alter Rebbe points out in Tanya, and he says, an interesting phenomenon. Ma'at oir doiche harbe min hachoshech. A little light disperses a lot of the darkness. And what is the point and how come that is the fact? It is that the darkness has no resistance to the light. Darkness is primarily a presence of a negative. It's a negative presence. It's a non-presence, and therefore there is no resistance. If there's a little bit light, it is everywhere. This is why we're saying, we point out, the sun rises, the entire environment, the entire, whatever is within, is not blocked off from vision, it becomes sun.
You said because darkness is not a resistance?
Right, it's not resistant, it's not a Metzias that resists light.
What's the point of that? And what's
I'll explain.
Okay.
Light has a true presence. Therefore, if there is light, it has to be everywhere. And yet we see that there is a difference. We say the etzem, as we also say, the etzem takeh has no bound, but the light, the effect of the light, the illumination element that you could see objects, that actually ends. Even though one would say, why does it end? It's a real presence. It ends. It ends in nifsa koich. Because, in a word, not for now, even though light illuminates automatically, but it's really not automatic. There is a functional method that it does, like in seichel. Seichel makes sense. It makes sense. It's automatic. It's not. There's a functional element in this. You have to realize and understand it. It's not automatic, even though it makes sense. So why not? This making sense has its limits. The power of this making sense has its limits.
And the light seems to be automatic, but it's not.
That's right. The same similar thing. It automatically illuminates the darkness, but it's not. It's automatic and not automatic because the presence of the oil is not automatic. There's a presence there, even though it's an intangible thing. I said this is not for now because our time is up.
It's a presence. It's a very fine presence, but a presence.
Right, just like in Seichel. Ultimately, the muscle is in Seichel.
Yeah.
All right, this is it for this morning, and we shall reconvene in Mitzvah Shem Sunday morning.
Thank you, Paltiel. Good morning and Shabbos.
Have a good day. A good Shabbos.
You know, Baruch is going to teach Shabbos.
Yeah.